There's a number circulating online that's making many people stop and look twice, 12,749. That, according to headlines spread across websites, videos, and social media, would be the price of a future small and affordable Tesla. Nicknamed the Model 2 by many, the figure is tempting, and for many who have always wanted an electric car but have seen prices far beyond their budget, it sounds like a door finally opening, and perhaps it is. Tesla has been giving consistent signals that it wants to reach the average buyer, the one who changes cars every 5 or 10 years and needs to carefully consider the monthly payment. This direction seems real, and that in itself is important news. The issue is that although the path points towards a cheaper car, that specific number will still need to go through several stages before becoming a reality in the consumer's pocket. For now, there is no official order page open, no confirmed sales date, and the manufacturer itself has not yet publicly stated that value as the final price of the model. This doesn't mean the project is fantasy. It only means that the value appearing in the headlines is an estimate based on internal plans and market expectations, and that it may be adjusted until the official launch. Such a number usually serves more as a starting point for conversation than as a definitive price tag stuck to the windshield. It's also worth remembering that almost every electric car advertised at a low price depends on a combination of factors to reach that value. Government incentives, tax breaks offered by specific states or countries, simpler factory configurations, and local regulations that vary considerably from region to region. In some places, these bonuses will significantly reduce the final price, and the buyer may take home a car for much less than they would pay for an equivalent gasoline model. In other markets, however, these incentives will be smaller or non-existent, and the initial price will increase. None of this detracts from the merit of the project, but it shows that the same car can have very different prices depending on the buyer's zip code. There's also that layer of costs that usually only appears when signing the contract, and it's worth keeping an eye on from the start. Shipping from the factory to the dealership, registration fees, local taxes, vehicle registration, insurance, financing expenses when paying in installments, and even the installation of a home charger for those who want convenience in their daily lives. Each of these items individually seems small. Together, they will make a real difference between the headline price and the price that will appear on the first bill. This isn't unique to Tesla. It applies to any brand, but it's good to approach this conversation with your eyes open, especially when the initial price is so attractive. The key point to remember before any other discussion about this model is that the headline number and the cost of owning a car will go hand in hand, but they won't be exactly the same. That figure of 12,700 could exist, yes, under certain conditions, and that would already represent a significant shift in the market. Even so, the price that truly matters will be the one that appears in the monthly payment, the insurance renewal, and the small daily expenses. Knowing this beforehand doesn't diminish the project's appeal. It simply prepares the buyer to make a more informed choice when the time finally comes. And that's precisely where one of the greatest advantages of this smaller Tesla being designed behind the scenes lies. This smaller Tesla project, by the way, has its own name within the company, and it's not exactly what the public has been calling it. According to information released by Reuters, the automaker is internally developing a vehicle identified by the code NV9. This would be the more affordable car designed to reach a segment of buyers who currently look at Tesla from afar. The nickname Model 2, so often repeated in videos and articles, has never actually been confirmed by the company itself as the official name of the product. It's a popular suggestion that caught on so much that it became standard in conversations, even without formal approval from those building the car. This difference between the internal code and the popular name may seem like an unimportant detail, but it helps to understand what stage the project is really at. When a vehicle already has a defined commercial name, it usually means it's nearing the final stages of development, with advertising campaigns being prepared and launch dates already discussed with the press. When it's still circulating only by an alphanumeric code like NV9, the scenario is usually different. There's a concept, there are design directions, there are internal goals, but there's still room for important changes along the way. The official naming tends to be one of the last steps before launch, and it hasn't happened yet. Another point worth considering is the current lack of concrete information that usually accompanies a product about to be launched. There is no publicly available pre-order page. A specific warranty policy for this model has not been disclosed. There is no confirmed delivery date nor even an approximate window such as the second half of a music certain year. It is also unclear which market will receive the car first, whether it will be the United States, China, Europe, or some other country where Tesla already has a factory. Each of these pieces usually appears gradually as the project progresses, and for now they are still falling into place. Even so, the direction signaled by the automaker makes a lot of sense when you look at the bigger picture. Tesla built its reputation with mid to high price sedans and SUVs such as the Model 3 and Model Y, and is also betting on the distant future with the idea of autonomous robot taxis. Between these two extremes, what's missing is precisely the entry-level model, the car that will win over the buyer who has never owned an electric vehicle and wants to experience the technology without compromising their budget. A model in this price range, if it actually comes to fruition, will significantly expand the brand's reach and could bring electric technology to garages where it has never been before. This move is strategic and seems to be underway. However, the essential difference remains between a well-designed plan and a car parked in someone's garage. A sign of intent, however consistent, still doesn't replace the experience of signing the contract, receiving the keys and driving the vehicle home. Anyone thinking of trading in their current car for something more economical will need to observe how this project evolves in the coming months, paying attention to official announcements, presentation events, and direct communications from the company. What's to come seems promising and the expectation is well-founded, but the transformation of this plan into an available product will necessarily pass through the factory floor, where everything will truly begin to be decided. And it is precisely within the factory that one of the most interesting parts of this story lies. Because the secret to a cheaper Tesla will not only be in the battery or the smaller size of the car, it will mainly be in the way it is assembled. The traditional automotive industry has built its vehicles for decades using hundreds of separate metal parts, welded and bolted together one by one. Each stamp sheet, each support, each connection requires time, labor, factory space, and energy. Tesla has been working on a different idea which promises to cut much of this work at the root, and this approach could be the key to achieving a more attractive final price. The centerpiece of this strategy is the Gigapress, a gigantic machine capable of fusing in a single operation enormous structures that previously needed to be assembled from dozens of separate components, instead of welding 70 pieces to form the rear of a car. For example, the Gigapress pours liquid metal into a mold and produces that entire section in one step. This process, called mega casting, drastically reduces the number of welds required, decreases manufacturing time, and simplifies the entire production line. Combined with so-called unboxed manufacturing, Tesla hopes to assemble different car modules in parallel and then join them together at the end as if they were large, ready-made blocks. On paper, all of this sounds like a silent revolution, and in many ways, that's exactly what it will be within the industrial environment. Fewer parts will mean fewer suppliers involved, less transportation of components between factories, less inventory sitting idle in warehouses, and less chance of delays due to a single missing part. The assembly line will occupy less space, require fewer robots, and be able to operate at a faster pace. For the company, this set of changes will represent considerable savings on each vehicle produced, and it is precisely these savings that will make it possible to consider selling an electric car for a price that previously seemed unattainable for a brand like Tesla. Here, however, a question arises that deserves careful consideration without losing enthusiasm for the project. Will all the savings achieved within the factory actually reach the buyer's garage? Partly yes, certainly, because a cheaper car to produce will naturally allow for a more competitive selling price. This is the basis of the plan and it makes sense. But manufacturing savings are only one link in the chain that determines how much it will cost to live with a vehicle. There are other factors spread throughout the years of use that don't depend on the Gigapress or the mega casting, and that may behave differently than one might imagine when looking only at the initial price tag. Insurance companies, auto repair shops, spare parts suppliers, and authorized repair centers operate with their own logic based on real maintenance costs, component availability, and the time required to get a car back on the road after any problem. These agents will calculate their prices based on what they will face daily, not on what Tesla will save at the factory. Therefore, the interesting challenge of this project will be to ensure that the savings achieved through so much industrial innovation do not remain confined within the walls of the automaker, finding ways to also be reflected in the owner's bills over the years. And that is precisely where the most decisive test of all comes in. The one that will take place outside the assembly line. The place where this decisive test will truly take place won't be the dealership showroom or the demonstration track. It will be the body shop after that first bump that nobody plans for, but that almost every driver faces at some point in their life. It could be a poorly calculated reverse in a supermarket parking lot, a rear-end collision in a traffic jam, a large rock in the road, or a side collision at a poorly marked intersection. These minor accidents are part of the routine for anyone who drives, and how the car responds to them will largely determine whether that attractive price tag will remain attractive over the years. Here's an important technical detail about the technology that will make Tesla as cheap as possible. Those enormous Gigapress cast pieces so efficient in production could become a considerable challenge when it comes to repairs. When a traditional car suffers a rear-end collision, the repairer only replaces the damaged parts, usually small and relatively inexpensive components. However, when an entire structure is cast into a single giant piece, a crack or deformation at any point may require the complete replacement of that section. The cost of this type of repair could be so high that the insurance company might simply prefer to consider the car a total loss, even after a collision that would seem minor to any driver. This possibility will trigger a chain of consequences that is worth monitoring closely. The insurance premium will tend to reflect this risk, likely being higher than expected for a car with a low initial price. The availability of spare parts will also be a sensitive point, especially in the first years of sales when there will not yet be a wide network of suppliers familiar with those specific structures. Downtime in the repair shop could extend for weeks while components arrive from afar or while technicians seek authorization to repair such large parts. And the resale value of the vehicle after an accident recorded in its history will suffer from the natural distrust of future buyers regarding structural repairs. Tesla itself seems aware of these issues and is reportedly working on intelligent solutions to mitigate these impacts. Among the ideas circulating are so-called crash pods, which would be sacrificial modules positioned in the car's most vulnerable areas, designed to absorb minor impacts and then be easily and cheaply replaced. There are also mentions of bolted-on modules instead of welded ones, which would allow mechanics to disassemble and replace entire sections more easily without having to alter the entire structure. External plastic protections positioned in areas most exposed to scratches and minor bumps would prevent constant trips to the workshop for purely aesthetic reasons, keeping the car looking well, maintained for longer. All of this will only work, however, if these ideas translate into real-world practice within the automotive repair market. It won't be enough for Tesla engineers to design intelligent solutions on the drawing board. Independent workshops will need access to the right tools, specific training, the ability to purchase parts without waiting in endless queues, and authorization from the manufacturer to perform these services. Insurance companies will need to recognize these innovations in their calculations, adjusting premiums to reflect the lower repair costs promised by the project. When this entire ecosystem is working together, the dream of a truly affordable electric car will gain momentum and the average buyer will begin to see in their own pocket that the technology developed in the factory has become tangible and everyday reality. Talking about everyday life is precisely where this project will truly need to shine. Because a car doesn't just live in engineering spreadsheets or technology presentations. It lives in a home garage, in a tight parking space at the mall, on weekend road trips, and on the repetitive commute between work and family. A buyer profile that will deserve special attention in this new Tesla will be the over 55s, people who have owned many cars throughout their lives and who value above all quiet comfort and the absence of unpleasant surprises. For this group, the ideal car will not necessarily be the most futuristic, but rather the one that offers peace of mind every day. Getting in and out of the vehicle, for example, will seem like small details to someone in their 20s or 30s, but will make a huge difference to someone who already feels some stiffness in their knees or back. A car that is too low will require effort to get in and out, and this repeated several times a day will become a permanent inconvenience. The height of the seats, the angle of the doors, the presence of well-positioned handrails, and the ease of reaching the seat belt will form a set of small conveniences that added together will make the car seem welcoming or tiring. A compact model, such as a crossover with a higher driving position, will have a natural advantage in this aspect, offering ease of access that low sedans rarely manage to deliver. Visibility will also play a crucial role in this equation. Large windows, thin structural pillars, generous rear-view mirrors, and well-positioned cameras will allow the driver to see everything around them without having to crane their neck or guess what's in their blind spot. This will be especially important when parking and on busy roads where a fraction of a second can make the difference between a smooth journey and an unnecessary scare. The air conditioning system will need to be robust enough to withstand scorching summers in cities like Phoenix or Houston, where the interior temperature of a parked car can become unbearable in just a few minutes. Similarly, the heating and defroster will need to cope with harsh winters in places like New York where cold accumulates on the windows and requires a quick response. The interior controls will be another sensitive point, especially in a brand known for concentrating almost everything on a single central screen. For many experienced drivers, navigating menus within a display to adjust something as basic as the temperature or headlights may seem impractical, especially while driving. Physical buttons for essential functions, voice commands that actually work in different accents, steering wheel shortcuts, and even small details like intuitive door handles will make the car feel user-friendly rather than complicated. Driver assistance features such as automatic emergency braking, blind spot warning, lane departure warning, and high-resolution rear-view cameras will be very welcome, provided they help the driver without taking away the feeling of being in control of the machine. The line separating a genuinely affordable car from a merely cheap one will lie precisely in these design choices. Cutting costs too much on essential items will transform the entry-level version into something that makes the buyer feel punished for choosing the simplest model. Lack of sound insulation, lack of comfort in the seats, lack of air conditioning power, lack of storage space for groceries or luggage, lack of visual safety during maneuvers. All of this will rob the experience of that sense of tranquility that makes someone recommend the car to friends and family. Tesla will have the chance to prove that a low-priced vehicle can indeed offer dignity in daily use, respecting the driver as an adult, capable of making their own choices and deserving of a product that works well in all the small routines that make up real life behind the wheel.